Thanks for doing this, Artem.
Oh, dude, no worries. I'm excited.
It's
Yeah,
great to chat. I think we've only crossed paths a couple times, but I've obviously been following you guys, following your squad.
yeah,
Off to a great start early spring. It's just ripping, dude.
yeah. Thank you, man. Yeah, no, the team's looking good. I think I saw you those local top view races last time, maybe.
Exactly. I was like,
Yeah,
who's this? I think you were, maybe that was a couple years ago, so you were probably like 16. I was like, who the hell is this kid? He just keeps
something like
attacking.
that. Yeah, man. No, those are good times.
They are good times. Like I've
Yeah.
I've missed a bunch of those races. They throw some in Florida, and I had friends that came down both weekends, and
Mm,
then I got to try and get to something in Georgia. I think I'm going to miss Tonga. I'm going to be in France, and so I'm like, damn,
oh,
that's yeah,
oh,
that's a
shoot.
good. I like that race. That's fun.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was
All
good.
right.
What are you going to France for?
Just going for my husband's birthday. He's always wanted to go
Yeah.
to the French Open, so we scored some tickets and going to cruise over there. And then I
Oh,
actually randomly met a guy on the road in Florida who lives in Paris, and I was like, "How's the riding there?" He's like, "Incredible. You need to bring your
yeah.
bike." So
Oh, yeah.
going to go over, do some, grab some routes from this guy, and just cruise. And we'll be there for 2 weeks. Come back, and then I'm kind of up in the air about amateur nats because it's 2 days after I get back here, and I'm like, "Man, am I gonna
Mm,
wanna pack up and go to Virginia?"
right.
But that's you guys did you do that race last year as
I did.
a
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that course was pretty cool. I liked
That,
how
yeah, that was much better than Florida, in my opinion.
Florida.
Yeah.
That yeah, interesting
No,
choice, but
it was good. Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Yeah. This year, I don't even know if I'm going to do the U23 amateur nats. Like, I hopefully do the baby Giro and then pro nats because they're flipped this year, I think, right?
Hmm. I don't know. That's I mean, it's so yeah, that's a man, it's great. So people that are I'm probably just gonna start this from a roll in. How old are you? 18 now? 19?
19. 19.
19.
Yep.
19. And it's amazing that we have American cyclists that are at a level where it's like, I don't even know if I can fit U23 nats into my schedule because I have big things going on, man. Like
Yeah.
serious kudos, dude. I hope
Yeah.
you like pinch yourself sometimes like, damn, this is going pretty damn well so far.
Yeah. No, no, I'm super grateful. Like, it's going from juniors last year and then being on a team like Action. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's
I love
oh
it.
man, I don't know AJ. So I'm from Rochester originally. So
Yeah.
obviously I still keep in touch with people from our club, and it's Magnus Sheffield, and now
Yeah.
AJ's doing some things, and people
Exactly.
I'll say like what's in the water, but it's incredible to just see what you like the young crop coming up is exploding. And so it has all of us people my age like super pumped for you guys, just like
Yeah.
do the biggest things. Like I was always like a TJ fan, is huge American cyclist, but couldn't get to that really high level,
Hmm.
amazing rider. But yeah, we've got a lot of pressure on you guys, so
Yeah. Yeah.
keep
Thank you.
bringing it. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
I also hear your name from when you terrorize people at the airport rides, so
Oh
that
yeah. Yeah, that's sort of thing. Like I think 2 years ago it was like me, Michael, Joey Roscoff, Oliver, like all of these hitters at the airport ride. It was great training, great fun. It was awesome.
I was asking Forrest Howard, who's down there,
Oh,
and
yep, Forrest.
he I had a couple athletes that were trying to hang out with you guys, and there's those like little stair steps, I guess, before you guys turn to the longer route. You go like southwest,
Yep.
and he laughed and goes, "Dude, I think Artem is like drooling when he sees that every time, and he just absolutely murders people." I
That's my
was like,
spot. That's my spot. Yeah, because for the last couple of years I've been trying to get the KOM there. So every
ah,
yeah.
you man. Okay, that explains it because people will say, "I don't know what it is, man. Artem literally just takes off every time," and you ruin people. Like I have people training for that area to try and hang on, and then ties
Oh, I'm
there.
sorry.
No, man,
Yeah.
it's good. That's
Yeah.
what man, I am envious of sometimes the big city. I'm not a big city person, but the riding and the talent and the level of people that you guys have to ride with and train
Yeah.
with is incredible. I think Florida, although it's super flat, there is a group
Mhm.
there that I'll roll with. That there's 40 dudes that are just fast people, and it's
Right.
amazing training. I had never, you know, the group that I live with at home, there's maybe 10 really fast people. And that's just a different vibe. But when you roll up and if you're not on, you could possibly get dropped. That
Oh
you
yeah.
can't replicate that on your own. So
Yeah, for
no,
sure.
man, keep doing it. It's only making people better and
Oh,
you're
I appreciate
motivating
it.
a ton of people. And
Yeah.
so, well, let's jump into this. I've got about 20 questions or so. Go on tangents,
Yeah.
bring up things that I might not ask. Really just want to continue to help motivate other cyclists that are following you and get a better sense of who you are and what you're doing. And yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time to share some of your knowledge. And
Yeah.
there's so many people rooting for you, man. It's
Oh,
great for them to kind of have even the next layer of connection, especially people that might not get to ride with you on the weekends and stuff. So,
mhm.
thank you for doing this. So,
No, I'm
number
excited.
one,
Thank you for having me.
oh man, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Big, wide open-ended question. Number one, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
So best advice I've ever received probably have to go with coming from my father. Before like these local races, I mean, even to this day, like I get super nervous before races. And basically what he did to like calm me down was he just told me like go out there and like do everything that you can do. Just like give it like leave it all in the road. And then
Mm,
like whatever happens, happens. Like if you go out there and you go up a 20-minute climb and you bonk halfway through, at least like at least you tried and didn't get dropped, you know? Then it's like then we got stuff to work on. So that just kind of calms me down before races.
so you like find a weakness by putting yourself out there and leaving it on the road. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
you can say that for sure. Yeah.
When do those nerves sort of settle down? Is it before the race starts, as the race gets going? When are you like, okay, I'm in my element, I'm racing, or is it you're just kind of like racing just makes you nervous in general?
I mean, a little bit of everything. Like kind of the night before, you get a little bit nervous, but then you kind of like, but then you're doing so much stuff to pack, you kind of take your mind off of it. Like you start pinning up numbers, and then go checking out your bike, so then kind of take your brain off the nervous. But then, kind of right before you bed, which is right before you go to bed, which is probably the worst time to get the nerves. And they kind of hit again, but then in the morning, then you get back up, focus on breakfast, what you're eating, trying to like pack all your stuff, and then kind of like right before the race, you get nervous again, which is also not very good, but you know it is what it is.
That's amazing for people to hear because I don't
Yeah,
think a lot of people are going to think that Artem's getting nervous before races. So
yeah,
that will probably help calm some people down.
yeah, yeah.
What do you think you've learned about cycling that's made you better at cycling?
Oof. Um, I don't know. That's a good question. Probably just to take everything like one step at a time, maybe.
Mm.
Um, not like just trust whatever you're doing, not to rush things. You know, like um, I kind of started doing like these bigger rides, and
You're doing
I
some mega rides, homie.
yeah,
You are doing
yeah,
some mega rides, dude.
yes. This year I've been doing some like a lot of crazy rides, and like everyone keeps telling me like, hey, like you're probably doing a little too much, and like none of the world tour guys are doing this, and like you shouldn't be training 8 hours, blah 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 blah. But like I kind of just learned to trust the system. Like you know, it's like maybe it's probably not the best thing I could be doing, but like if that's what my coach tells me to do, like I have to trust it. You know, because if you're not trusting what you're doing, then it's not
Mhm.
going to work out. You know.
So those come from your coach. He's like, go bang out an 8 hour ride,
Yeah.
cruise Z12 sit. Who's your coach?
Exactly.
Is it Glib?
Gleb, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man.
So
I
he,
don't know him, but I know Raleigh Weaver, and he
yeah,
worked with Glib, and so
exactly.
I'm gonna have to try and
Yeah.
get this guy on the podcast because it sounds like
Oh
he's got
yeah.
some
No,
some
Gleb's
interesting
a
cat.
Gleb's a good coach. He's just super old school. Where like I still don't use power to train. You know, like
Really?
it's yeah, it's all heart rate.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So like in the winter, a lot of base miles and like a couple interval sessions right before racing starts, and then during the racing, just grabbing the form through the races. That's pretty much it.
That's amazing because I actually took off this list sometimes in some rapid fire. I say heart rate or power or a combo or neither or whatever. And I was like,
Yeah.
he's probably just power. Like all these kids are just power obsessed. So
Right.
that is
No, no, no.
amazing.
I'm
Dude,
absolutely off heart rate. Like,
let's jump in. You kind of went down a path that a lot of people are going to be interested in. So let's talk base training and then let's
mhm,
talk more like in season. You said a couple
okay.
intervals. So are you doing, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What are you doing for base?
So for base, I probably start. let's see, when do I start? Probably a little bit after October. I take
Okay.
a 2 weeks off in October, and then
Totally off, not riding a bike?
totally off.
Okay.
Still trying to be active to not gain a lot of weight, maybe like a
Mhm.
couple hikes, couple runs here and there, but then totally off the bike.
Okay.
And then slowly ramping up the miles. Maybe just first 2 weeks just start off easy, maybe like 10-hour weeks, 12-hour weeks, nothing too much, and then like this winter I started doing, like I said, the 8-hour rides. So two 8-hour rides a week, which put me at like 25 hours a week pretty much.
Mhm.
That's not including gym workouts. So a lot of gym in the winter.
Yes.
And then
Let's tangent real quick on that. How many times do you go to
sure.
the gym and what are you doing?
2 to 3 times a week. A mix of arms and legs.
Mhm.
Nothing too specific. I don't know what they're called exactly, like calf races, I believe.
Okay.
Doing a lot of
Interesting.
those, and then some stuff on the legs, and then some stuff on the arms. So it's like whenever you're going up a climb, it kind of helps to move your bike. I see a lot of cyclists not doing any arms, and I'm like, guys,
Man, yeah, people are thinking about like paying you to say these things. I'll talk to somebody and they're like, I can't get this 2.5 minute KOM. I said, do you lift? They said, what the hell does that have to do with the KOM? I said, have
yeah,
you ever done a 2 minute max effort? Like you are cranking that bike. You think your
yeah,
arms aren't
oh
going to
yeah,
get tired?
yeah,
Oh man, dude, this is amazing. Okay,
yeah,
so you're in the gym 2 or 3 times a week, and then you're doing these big hours, and let's say so that puts you into what, like November, December?
yeah. Right about that, and then just, I mean, pretty much just keep going till
Mhm.
till February, and then February we had team camp with Action this year in Tuscany, Italy. That was a massive week. I did 34 hours that week. Um, that was
And that's
huge.
mostly zone 1, 2,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Not,
just
I mean,
cruising.
during the camp, we had like a couple tests here and there.
Hmm.
A couple 10-minute. I think we had this thing called an insect test, I believe it's called.
Oh, inside?
Uh, yep, that one.
Yep.
Yep. And then but nothing too crazy interval wise. And then 2 weeks before racing started, I started throwing a little bit of intervals in there. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
How did you feel on the first intervals, or how did you feel doing the test after doing such a big amount of base miles?
It was good because when I do the base miles, I don't exactly do them like zone one, zone two.
Okay.
I like to like throw in a little bit of fun and then go for a KOM here and there for like a 20-minute
Mm.
effort. So then I'll do like a 20-minute, not all out, but close to all out effort.
Hmm.
Which kind of gets me prepared for those intervals, which probably
Hmm.
isn't the right thing to do, but I mean, I kind of like doing it. So
Man, I think there's a million ways to do this, and if you're
yeah,
responding well to it and riding well, it's keep doing it. And you've got a coach that you're working with, which is really smart. So you got a second pair of eyes on it. I mean,
yeah,
so far it seems like it's working pretty well. So,
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, yeah,
and then do you think you'll change? How have you done things during season? Because you race a lot. So
yeah,
how did you guys sort of structure that? You don't have to get too detailed. Was
yeah.
is it in interval session during the week? Is it still mostly a lot of endurance riding? How do you guys manage like the fatigue from the racing? Because you race hard as hell.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it really depends. It's really difficult because sometimes you do stage races and then sometimes you do one day. So it really depends on what you're doing. And then especially with travel gets in the way as well. Like if your race is from Thursday to Sunday and then you got to travel, like Tuesday, then there's really not a whole lot you can do, you know?
Hmm.
So definitely no long rides during the week, but definitely like maybe like a 3 hour with a couple of intervals in there, like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and then on a Thursday do some openers before Friday for the race. Yeah,
So are you doing intervals by power, or are you doing everything by heart rate?
everything by heart rate. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay. That's wild to hear. That's
yeah,
refreshing
yeah,
actually. Yeah, that's
yeah.
cool. Do you know what, and this might be a question for your coach, but do you know like what things he looks for on intervals since they might not what are some of the comments that you get? Like, hey, your heart rate's too
Right.
high, you're too low. Like, how do you dial things in to know how hard you should be pushing, or is it? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah. So on intervals, it's pretty much he looks at how fast I can recover. So I mean, if I do the interval at a heart rate of, let's say, 185, which is, I mean, pretty close to my max. Then he sees like, okay, he has a 7-minute interval at a heart rate of like 180, 185. And then let's see how fast he can go back down to like 110, 120 when he's recovering. Because if my heart rate doesn't go back down that quickly, then that means I'm kind of like fatigued, and he just looks at things like that. And then also if I can't get my heart rate up to 180, 185, that also means I'm fatigued. So then
that's awesome, man. I'm gonna have to. My one of our other coaches, Josh, does something similar to this, and he was asking me. I'd ask those guys, I'm like, "Hey, what are some good questions to ask coaches?" And he brought up this exact scenario, and I was like, "Man, nobody does that anymore. Like, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "I do it," and I was like, "That's really interesting." I'm like, "Okay, eat my words. I'm learning some things. This is good. All right, Artem, damn, dude." Is there anybody out there, especially now Strava has opened up a lot of people's training. Is there any maybe world tour guys that you might look up to, or that you're kind of checking out their training, seeing what they're doing, or you just kind of keep things narrow on what you
no, I love Strava. I think it's the greatest thing ever. So like, I mean, I got a chance to ride with him actually. So Pavel Sivikov, I know him very well. Like Gleb used to coach him before he got on BMC Devo. And he's just a big idol to me. He's kind of built like me as well, so like I'm just trying to be like him.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is very cool. And you got to go out to an Ineos camp, is that right?
That's right. Yeah. No, that was awesome. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. It was less of a team camp, more of like a talent ID type of thing. It was only 10 World Tour guys there because they had a team in Tour Down Under, and then a team in Argentina. So not all the guys were there. And then we had like 10 to 15, maybe U23 junior guys. So it was awesome. It was a great experience.
That's cool. I was watching on Instagram. The photos looks just mega.
Yeah, Mallorca was insane. Yeah, it was good.
You guys, I was actually talking to Michael Garrison. He takes really good photos. You guys, I like some of the Action Riders accounts because it's not just like, me and my bike. You guys have a good. You paint the picture well. You tell the story well. So that's cool.
No, Michael loves photography. Yeah, he's really good at it. I'm not quite on that level. I'm trying to get there, but he's.
It's good though. Everybody kind of has their vibe. I'm thinking through some of the other guys I follow, and it's like it's just it's interesting. It's keep doing it. What do you think is your best attribute in cycling? How do you try to use that to your advantage? And the reason I want to ask that question is maybe that other cyclists that are coming up that are Cat 3, Cat 4, they're trying to figure themselves out. So when they hear other riders that are at your level having that self-awareness, it helps them to kind of pick up steam with their own self-awareness. So what do you like? Okay, this is my strength. And we don't want to give out any secrets, but people that are racing against you probably know how you roll. But what do you see as a strength, and how are you using that to perform well for your team?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I started riding, I've always noticed I have like quite a big engine. Like I'm able, like that's my probably key strength is to go in the breakaway and then being able to suffer all day. And then if I get caught, then I still have, the power, the legs to be in the front group and just basically use the engine to my advantage. Like for time trials is great, obviously, and then for climbs, like I'm a bigger guy, but I can still sometimes keyword sometimes get over the climbs with the climbers just because I can suffer well. But yeah,
you have to be drooling at that point when you see someone who's a little real tiny. You're like, okay, I want to go to the finish line and see you because they don't have the sprint.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Yeah.
What do you and Glib talk about that you think might be something you need to work on, that you can improve on to keep going up to the next level?
I mean, pretty much right now, the main thing I'm struggling with is my sprint. Like I'm not good at all at the doing a bunch sprint out of the bunch. Like not good at that at all. I mean, from the breakaway, I'm quite okay. Like I do have a quite fast kick, so I can win sometimes out of the breakaway. But I mean, Gleb says it's like if you're not a sprinter, then you're not a sprinter. So we're not doing a lot of things to work on my sprint.
Yeah. You can't do everything, and I think that's smart.
Exactly.
What do you think?
Unless you're Wout, but then you can do everything.
No, that guy is crazy. He's nuts. What do you think? Curious, do you think that's more of a mental thing of like your positioning in the group as when it's a huge bunch, or do you think it's just a watts thing?
I think for me, it's just a watts thing. Like I see all these guys doing. Like I know some guys who can hit over 2,000 watts, which
Yes.
I think it's absolutely insane. Like I think I hit like 1,300 this winter, and I was psyched. I was like, let's go. Those are great numbers for me. And then like I mean, actually positioning wise, like so that's the thing that helps me. Like I'm quite okay at positioning. I mean, U23 is a lot different than juniors. Like
Hmm.
it's insane just how just with coming from junior gears into adult gearing, you're topping out the sprint in junior gears at like 35, 40 miles per hour, maybe. And then here
Hmm.
you're just last 5K are all at 40 miles per hour. So yeah,
It's crazy. It's
yeah,
crazy fast.
it's a big difference for sure. But yeah.
Which I'm very curious about this one now. From what you've already said, which do you enjoy more, volume or intensity?
Oh, volume for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a big intensity guy. Yeah, I think I love going on like a 5 hour, 6 hour ride with the boys, and then or doing like a group ride here and there. I do like I guess you can say I like a mix. I like to do a longer ride with like throwing in some like KOMs here and there.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, no volume for sure.
That chops the ride up mentally, I think, really well. If you're like riding 2 hours and then
Yeah.
you got a couple efforts, and then you're like, oh, damn, I only have a couple more hours, and the day
Oh,
just
for
seems to go
sure.
by so fast.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Like especially if you start out the ride with a group ride, you do the group ride or you ride to the group ride, that's an
So,
hour, and
yeah.
then do a 2 hour group ride, then ride back, and then go do some intervals or whatever you have to do for another 2 hours, and you got a 6 hour day just like that.
If you have a big day, when you said big day with the boys, and so you're going by heart rate, you might have a
Hmm.
couple other guys that are going by power.
Hmm.
Everybody's not always on like an endurance thing. How do you guys get on the same page? Or you're just like, yo, we're going at a chattable pace. Do you look at heart rate on a group ride that's endurance? Because this is like the basic ride is a struggle sometimes for people because they're like,
For sure.
this guy's got to
Yeah.
do this guy wants to do this, and
Right.
then people just go off and do their own thing. How do you guys all gel and coalesce together?
Yeah. I mean, usually on a flatter ride, it's fine. We just find a way to work it out. But during like if we have lots of time and like 10,000, 13,000 feet of elevation in a 6 hour ride, then some guys are getting dropped at the climbs. Either they're not feeling good or whether they're strong enough or not. And then just roll your pace up the climb and then regroup in the top of the climb and then go crazy for the sun again.
Yeah, you know, I think Amo were going nuts down some descents I saw
Oh
recently.
yeah, yeah. We go to college together up in Tennessee, and then he was like, "Oh, we should go for this downhill KOM. Who's down?" And I'm like, "Me." And then he's like, "We got the GoPro." And then the first time we went for it, when we got the KOM, he didn't get the footage. He forgot to record it.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. So the next morning we woke up early, and then we're like, "All right, let's go back and get it." But we didn't get the KOM this time, but we did get the footage, and it looked great. So
That is awesome.
yeah.
One thing I want to ask you about the gym. So do you keep the gym work up during the season, or is that just a base season type thing?
Uh, so it's mostly a base season type thing. I'm doing some gym right now because I'm taking a month off racing.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, when you're racing, it's like nearly impossible to keep the gym workouts in.
Is it are you taking a month off just because there aren't any big races that you want to go to, or that
Hmm.
the team or your coach was like, hey, let's take a month to chill before we regroup and go into May?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple reasons for it. So the main reason is because I can't be in Europe right now because I don't have a visa.
Okay.
So I'm allowed 90 days in Europe, and I used up
Mm.
like 80 of my 90 days. So then I have to come back
Hmm.
to the States, which for me works out great because I feel like I race for 2 months, and then the guys who are racing for 3 months plus, then they're going to go into the summer block. They're going to be a lot more fatigued, and then while I can hit those 2 months hard, take a little rest, do some like base longer rides again, and then come back into the summer or the summer with good shape.
That is a really good point that you bring up that I think is very valuable for a lot of amateurs, especially people that live in cold areas. That Cameron
Hmm.
Cogburn, he used to race for Jelly Belly. We were chatting one year, and we were up at I want to say Tour Catskills, and we had in upstate New York a brutal winter. And he's like, "Man, how's the training been going?" I'm like, "Horrible. Like long
Hmm.
every weekend it was just snowing. Like my long rides are like 4 hours." Da da. He goes, "You know what you got to do? Think of the races in August and September because everybody that had a mild winter, they're going to be tired as hell. And it was the best piece of advice of just shift it, man. Like, you might not be flying in May. You got to look a couple more months down. Be patient. And I was like, Cameron, all right, man, you just chill. I was all bummed and pissed off and like mad at the weather. He's like, no, man, just figure out a way to make it happen, you know? So that is really good. What do you think is kind of underrated in cycling, whether training, equipment, anything come to mind?
Oof. Probably, I don't think people understand the stress in the bunch. Like in juniors was quite okay because I was kind of strong enough to just always ride the front in juniors, and then not being in that mix where there's the crashes and like the bumping elbows and everything like that. But with U23 racing, when the race is 4 hours long, and if you sit on the front for 2 hours, you're going to be toast. So you have to get in the mix and fight for position. And I don't think, I mean, obviously the racers understand, but people who don't really race a lot, the stress in the bunch, like we're going up these climbs at 25 miles per hour and we're crashing up the climb, and then the positioning before like key moments, whether it's a climb or a cobbled section, like it gets absolutely insane. And
how do you manage that? I mean, I asked this question because as an amateur cyclist myself, that was one thing that there have been a few other guys on the podcast that talk about this. And I remember asking a teammate, like, I was the same way. If I was in a big amateur race and I had to conserve energy, I was so freaking nervous. And he's like, dude, everybody's nervous. What are you talking? Like, the nerves are high. And I don't think when you say all the racers know that, I don't think everyone understands that. Everyone's kind of on edge. What do you try to do to manage that? Or is it just like, I mean, it's chaotic at times. If there's 120 guys in a race, it's just a lot of bodies everywhere.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I told myself like, hey, like the possibilities of you crashing are very, very high. So you kind of just have to like come to peace in your mind that like, hey, like if you crash, you crash. And then when you tell yourself like, hey, like there's a high possibility of me going down, then you just kind of start racing differently, and then you race with more confidence. And I don't know, that's what I do. That helped me. So
interesting. So you feel like you raced better once you came to terms with that. I like that.
Yeah, for sure. I was always afraid of crashing, and obviously still am, but just basically coming to terms with that just helped me.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's an inspiration for you to keep pushing forward? You're at a really high level. There's still many layers to go. You're waking up, what keeps you going and motivated?
Oh, definitely my family and my friends, and pretty much the whole like Atlanta Southeast community. Like every time I do good in a race, like doesn't matter top 10 or if I win the race, like I get like lots of messages like, oh, congratulations, this, and like waking up to those messages is like it's great to see, like that really keeps me going.
The cycling community, wherever it is such a powerful thing. And I'm sure it's similar in other endurance sports, but it's when you get to experience that, it's really cool. And there are a ton of people rooting for you, your whole team. It's really, as I was saying before, just the American cyclists right now. It's like you guys are doing some things. It's exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
When you guys are kind of Gleb's crafting the training calendar, how much do you guys go on maybe what you feel like is missing, or how does that come up in conversation? And I think this would be beneficial for cyclists that can't afford to have a coach, that they're kind of like second guessing themselves a little bit. What sort of feedback do you feel like you need to give to him to help him put together the best thing? Or is he so old school that it's just like, yo, do this, end of the story, which wouldn't be a bad thing. That's some
I mean, to be honest, Gleb is a little bit like that. He's just super old school to where he just like writes out the plan, and I mean, follow through to that plan exactly. But sometimes, like, I mean, I have days where I'm not feeling good. So I'll be like, Gleb, can we, or like in the winter, if it's raining and he has like me doing like a 5-hour ride, I'm like, Gleb, like, can we switch the days around? He's like, no, we can't switch the days around. Like, just go on the rollers for like 4.5 hours instead of 5 hours. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of tough, but I just got to go through it, I guess.
You just get it done.
I'm pretty determined with that stuff. So I just go in there and get it done.
So can we ask you on film, what's your number one goal? Where are you trying to take this thing?
Oh, definitely become the best rider I possibly can on the world tour. That's always my goal. I don't have maybe like a set race I want to win, or maybe like I don't know, earn this amount of money or do
Mhm.
this. Just basically just go out there and give it everything I got, and like I said, like whatever happens, happens. Like if I can go out there and become the best rider, like that's my goal. But then if I
Okay.
don't, then I don't.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think there's a lot of people who talk about not having, focus on the journey, focus on the process,
Oh, for sure.
and the biggest things will come from that. And I think that's hard. It's awesome that someone that's 19 years old has that mindset. So
No, thank you. Yeah.
okay, so Gleb's got the calendar, he's doling things out. What are a couple workouts that you're like, oh yes, you like to do that type of thing? It might
Definitely
be
the long
let's say
ride.
aside from the long ride.
Okay, aside from the long ride. Okay. Shoot. I do like TT intervals, which I rarely have those anymore for some reason. But
Maybe because you're so good at them.
I don't know. Maybe it's probably because I don't have my TT bike right now, and then
Okay.
we're kind of hitting the base right now, and then during the week when I'm racing, it's like not the best thing to do.
Mhm.
But yeah, TT intervals, and then I just
What
look
would
at
that consist of? How would that be written out? What would you go do?
so usually they're probably around 5 intervals. Maybe start at like 7 minutes, go down to 6, then 5, then 4, then like 3, 2.5, and then 2. And then I just look at like the local Strava KOMs, and I'll be like, okay, this effort's right here, 5 minutes, and then go on that road and bang out the 5 minute effort, and then
What's the longest interval that he has you do time wise?
oof, probably the longest interval I've ever done is 9 minutes. Yeah,
Wow. Okay, this is
yeah,
awesome. There are way, and you're so young. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna really date myself. Like back, I don't know. Let's say 2010. Everybody's talking. You got to do 2x20s, 3x20s, 1x45s,
right,
and like nobody talks about that now. And we've had
yeah,
Landry is one of our other coaches who's younger. He's I want to say like 25, and he looks into a lot of pros training. He's like, dude, no one's doing 3x20s anymore. Like that is
yeah,
so
yeah.
old. And Grant Kuntz was on the podcast, and he was really talking about he thought the underrated thing was like 10-minute power in U.S. cycling. He's like, I don't know why everybody's always doing these super crazy long intervals. It's not what we do in the races. That's not where the
Right,
selection's made. So if you're getting
exactly.
dropped from the selection, why the hell are you training that? And it's
Yeah.
really changed how I've coached people and thought about my own training. So to hear
Hmm.
that, that's really cool. So can I ask you, heart rate wise, when you're doing like a 9.76 down to 2, do
Hmm.
you focus on pinning the heart rate, or does he have you go by RPE, or what do you how do you know how hard to go, or is it just max?
I mean, it's just max. Like
Okay.
he writes out kind of like just go 90 to 95% of your max, and I mean sometimes on the first interval, my heart rate may not even get up to like 185, or
Hmm.
190 or whatever it is,
Hmm.
and then just kind of go all out at that point. But then by the second interval, I kind of get going, so then it's easier for me to hold the higher heart rate. And then,
Very, very cool.
yeah.
Are you big into like tech and equipment and that type of thing? Or are you more a guy that's into just the riding?
I'm getting more into it. I used to not care at all. Like um, nationals for the time trial a couple years ago, like my TT position was horrible, and I thought TT position didn't matter at all. Aerodynamics, like as long as you're like pushing big watts and you're going fast, like then you're good to go. But then now I'm starting to like realize that it matters more and more. So I started putting the hoods a little more inside and like aero socks and getting the back real low and doing all this stuff, but not super keen on the aerodynamics yet, but definitely getting up there.
Do you work on that then when you're doing certain intervals to try and bring the two together, power and aero?
Oh,
Or
for sure, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Because now when I start to go into breakaway, like I can just feel a difference in my speed for sure. Like if I put my head super low, and then I can feel like I'm going 34 miles per hour instead of 32,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
yeah, definitely feeling that difference and practicing that in the intervals for sure.
So I could appreciate your comment on your photo at Athens Twilight, out of my element, and maybe you're referring to just going in circles for quite a long time, which is very different from
Exactly.
what you're doing in Europe. Do you
Yeah.
see the aerodynamics playing a big role in that type of race when you are cornering smash, or is this more like you're saying in the break in a road race, or maybe it's both?
I mean, in that race, you're a lot of times mostly in the wheel,
Mm,
most of the time. So it doesn't really matter too much. But when you're on the front, for sure, like you
yeah.
can. I mean, if anyone watched the race, you can see like whenever I got to the front, I was pretty low down, head
You're like a
low,
praying
and
mantis, dude. You were just like, I was like, you are possibly the easiest person to spot. I don't tune into too many of the crits, but
Mhm.
had a couple friends that were down there, and I was like, all right, how's everything going? It's like, up, Artem's in the break. Up, Artem's attacking the break. Here we go. And
Yeah,
I think it was maybe corner one where like everybody was getting like it must have been the tightest corner. It's kind of hard to tell
right.
on
Ex-
TV, but
yeah, that
everybody
one
was
was tight.
leaning into that super low, trying to just
Oh yeah.
rail that turn.
Yeah, exactly. That one was a little bit downhill off camber, so you had to find the perfect line for that one. Yeah, lots of leaning for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. What do you think for newer cyclists coming up? You would really have talked about patience and following the process, but is there
Yeah.
any piece of advice you'd give to newer cyclists or younger cyclists that can, help them stay on the course? Because this is a tough endurance sports are super hard and the training's tough. And what would you kind of tell them to encourage them?
I mean, the most thing probably I would say is just have fun. Like honestly, if you're not enjoying like riding the bike and you're treating it more of a job, then it's
Mm,
not you're not gonna last very long, in my opinion.
mhm.
So as long as like you're enjoying it and like I don't know, getting out with the boys or doing group rides and like enjoying the bike, then that's good for you. And then also I think balance is very important. I don't like for newer cyclists, I don't know what that may be, but if you're finding a way to balance, I don't know, whatever you call fun, and then riding a bike, that's the way to go.
What's your balance? What do you like to do when you're not riding?
Oh, definitely hang out with friends. That's like I like to come back from Europe and then visit the family for a couple of days, and I go up in Greenville, and then that's where all my buddies live, and then we just like go out and have fun, ride the bikes, stop at coffee shops 2 times on a 3 hour ride. It's it's like I just love that. Yeah, hanging out with friends for sure.
What are you getting at the coffee shop?
My go-to, if they have it, is a piece of cake, like carrot cake, and then a latte. That's probably my
Latte.
go-to. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's the number one thing in your daily routine that you think brings the biggest return to some success in sport for you?
I'd have to say quality of food for sure.
Mm. Can you
Yeah.
go in on that a little bit more? How does that maybe play out from days off the bike or days on the
Mhm.
bike or like a pre-race? Everybody always wants to know what's a pre-race meal? Do you have like a go-to?
So pre-race meal, I actually started working with a nutritionist recently. His name is Spencer Miller.
Okay.
He rides for Kelly and he works for EF Coaching now, and he's really helped
Awesome.
me. And he started giving me like these little tips. So before Athens, actually, for the first time ever, I had cereal before the race.
Really?
Yeah, I forgot what they're called.
Was it like a special type of cereal?
Cornflakes. No,
Okay.
it was just regular cornflakes, and
Do you know,
I
is
was
this
like,
just for the sugar content or
I mean, apparently they have a lot of carbs in them, and then I was like, should I eat pasta? And he's like, it really doesn't matter if you eat pasta or the cereal, but the cereal is much easier to digest, and you just feel
Mhm,
lighter. And I was like,
mhm.
that's a good point. So I went with cereal, and I felt amazing during the
That's
race.
so how far before the race did you eat that?
So usually, if I eat pasta or something heavier like rice, I'd probably go 3 hours before the race.
Mhm.
But with cereal, since it was easier to digest and it was not too much cereal, I probably ate it at 6, I would say.
And
So
we're talking
six,
just like a
2 hours before.
normal sized bowl of cereal or like
Yeah,
extra?
normal size bowl of cereal, maybe 2 bowls of cereal.
I
Yeah,
like
I
it.
mean, in my opinion, the more carbs, the better.
Okay, so you're a big
Yeah,
carb fan.
big carb fan before races for sure. I try to go low carb during the week, but then big high carbs before races.
So when you say low carb, tell us about that. Is it something that are you restricting carbs or are you like just not overly focused on them? Or low carb means different things to different people. So how do you
Sure.
gauge like,
Yeah.
You wake up, it's Tuesday morning. What are you gonna go eat?
I mean, so I like to go a little bit of carbs before the ride. So I'll do. I mean, it really depends on the ride you're doing. So then,
Okay.
if you're doing a big ride, for sure, like a bowl of oats,
Mm.
like around 150 grams of oats. And then if you're doing a small ride, it really depends. Like if you're trying to fast, maybe I'll do an omelet where it's just
Mm.
straight fat, and then like a black coffee where then I'm just burning fat for the ride.
And how long of a ride would you do that before?
Anything under 2 hours,
Okay.
I'll do a more of a fat breakfast.
How do you feel after that? Like, do you feel the fact that you hadn't eaten
Oh,
carbs or?
for sure, yeah, yeah. When especially when you start out, you don't feel good at all.
Mm.
But then once you get going, and you get like past that 1 hour, 1.5 hour mark, then you start feeling fine. And then
Mm.
yeah, but then yeah, the first hour is very tough for sure.
Would you do that like a day before you had an interval session, or do you have to time that type of fasted ride amongst
Mhm.
other rides, or can you just do it whenever?
I would do it before an interval ride or the day before the interval ride, but definitely
Mhm.
not before a race.
Okay,
Before a race, definitely start carbing up the day before the race for sure, and then actually the dinner before the day of the race.
cool,
Yeah,
awesome. What do you finish a sentence? I never dot dot dot.
I've never done a sprint workout. I don't think.
Really?
Yeah, never. Yeah,
And you don't want to. You're like, I'm
and
good with.
I don't want to. Yeah, exactly.
It's fun. It's funny. I actually don't do too many sprint workouts. My coach last year gave me 20-second sprints, and on paper it doesn't sound bad. The 20 seconds is so long. So people
Oh
out
yeah,
there,
absolutely.
I was like, this is. I was like, dude, I never want to do that again.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
No, yeah, no, I'm not a big sprinter guy at all.
Which race are you most looking forward to this year?
So with action, like we have probably one of the strongest teams. I mean, I have ever seen. Like we have guys on first and second, fifth and tenth at Junior Worlds last year coming up, and then we have Cooper Johnson, who is the Natty champ from U23 last year. Michael Garrison, and then other guys who won like Strada Bianchi from U23 from last year, and then like I hopefully to get in the Baby Giro, but with such a strong team, I'm just hoping to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Wishing you luck. Yeah, we got. I think I've been talking to Cooper. We had crossed paths in Tennessee a few times, and
yeah.
so I'm trying to get him on the pod. And it's yeah,
Oh yeah, you got to get all the action guys.
I'll be hitting all the action people up. I was like, because you guys are excited though too. Some people we messaged a lot of people just chatting with them about their
Mhm.
training on Instagram, and they're like, "Yo, would you come on the podcast?" Like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to talk about that." And I think
Yeah,
sometimes a lot of pros just seem like not that they don't want to share, but they're like a little hesitant of putting themselves out there. And
yeah,
then it's fun. Like Michael Garrison was like, "Yo, dude, totally in," and I was I don't know Michael, so I was just sort of
right.
like, whatever. I'm just gonna hit him up.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, you guys are just very open, and how I think you're in a really like good spot of youthful excitement, but you guys are all, as you're saying, like, dude, it's a hit squad of people on your
Mhm.
team. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
yeah,
gonna have to go through the action roster, hits people up, and Luke
sure.
Lamperty came on from Trinity, so I might have to hit up some
Oh
of
yeah,
those guys, get the UK flair going.
yeah.
Um, all right, let's see. Let's hit up I think this is my last one, unless there's anything that I might have missed. What do you think are three skills for success? And you could take this whether cycling or life, things that you've kind of learned on your journey that have helped you achieve what you've already achieved.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd probably say being able to position in cycling.
Hmm.
Positioning, it's really hard to learn how to position. It just comes with experience. You can't teach a new rider how to do it in like one race. I think it took me about maybe 2 or 3 years to learn how to position myself in a group.
So going on that, because this is
Mhm.
massively important, what were the feelings or what were you doing 2 years beforehand when you were like, okay, I'm not good at this. I need to
Mhm.
change something up. How did you work on that?
I mean, I started off at 11 years old, so I was very very young. So I started off
Hmm.
with local Fritz
Hmm.
scene, and then moving up, like just trying to. I didn't know how to move up in the corners, and then my dad was pretty much like, "Hey, like you just got to shoot up the inside and then kind of like pray for the best at that point." And I was like,
Mhm.
one day I just went out and tried it, and then until I tried it, I didn't learn. So
So do you think part of that is understanding when to burn the mash to move past people? Because this is a really good conversation because so
mhm.
many not younger riders, so many riders get stuck in the cat 3 world. They
Mhm.
just can't, they're physically capable, and I
Right.
think now is racing with Zwift creates more of a problem because people think they can just ride through people.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're in the mid, like I'm trying to think of, it's hard to verbalize this too as
No,
why.
I completely understand your question, and then
Yeah.
I th-
Um
I think being like when to move up, you have to learn how to move up. You can't move up when it's hard. When it's hard, like when someone is going at like 500 watts and you're trying to do 600, it's not like
because then you move
it's
back.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So, do you think it's having people understand that sort of like when the swell happens and it slows down for that
Mhm.
little split second, you have to maybe they need to be better at reading the race and
For
understanding
sure.
when okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think whenever it starts to get slow, that's basically like your key. Like, hey, you gotta start moving up before you get swarmed.
You have made a really good point, and that people are when people get attached to the numbers, like when you're saying someone's going 500 watts, you can't go 600 because then you're going to fall back. But when
Mhm.
it slows down, I think sometimes people are like, oh, I get to slow down now. It's like, no, now put out the 370 watts and move up 4
Exactly.
spots. So it's
Exactly. Yeah.
like, how can you? This is helping me coach people, so I appreciate this. It's like, how can you use the least amount of watts to move up the most positions? And
For sure.
it's sort of this girl, Natalie Stoll, told me one time when I was asking her about, she used to race for MVP, was like a domestic team back in the day in upstate New York. And I said, you know, I keep getting pushed back. And she said, because if you're not moving up, you're moving back. And
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
mindset shift, I was like, oh, you always have to be moving up. So if you're not
Exactly.
constantly trying to get forward, guess
Yeah.
what? 10 dudes just passed you. Like,
Yep. Exactly.
okay. So
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
number one. That's a huge gem.
Yeah.
Got 2 more?
Whew. And then the question was what
Just like top,
qualities?
just no, just 3 skills for success. So it could be even something like
Yeah.
mindset wise, or
Hmm.
you've already dropped some gems on nutrition,
Yeah.
or I don't know, anything else that comes. It
Yeah.
doesn't
I
have to be
mean,
3. Any,
mindset is pretty huge. I think mentality is everything. Like if you go into the race and whether you have like a problem or not, whether you're not feeling good or something like that, and then you let that affect your mindset where it's like, hey, I'm not feeling good, so I'm gonna get dropped today, or I'm not gonna be able to put out this amount of watts, or I'm not gonna be able to go up this climb fast enough. Like then you're not gonna be able to do it. Then you're just gonna get dropped. Or like the weather is not looking good. Like I've run into this issue quite some times. I'm not like recently again, Bell again, it was the worst weather of my life, and I was like, this is gonna suck. And basically going in with that mentality, like I got dropped like 2 hours in.
mm,
But if you tell yourself like, hey, like okay, weather's bad, and maybe I'm not feeling so well, maybe I didn't get the best night of sleep before, but hey, I'm gonna go out there and give it my best. Then if you go with that mentality, you're sure to do great.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
2 amazing ones. You got one more?
One more.
Trying to pull as
Prob
much out of Artem as possible. This is you're dropping gems, man. This is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I think being able to suffer is a key one. You gotta learn and really love being able to suffer, because if you're like once you hit the like once you're on the wheels, it's fine, but then once you hit the climb, and then it really just becomes a watt per kilo fight. And if you know how to suffer, then you're good to go.
How do you learn how to do that? Or where have you learned how to do that? When were there points in time when you were riding with, you know, you've been doing this for a long time, even though you're so young,
Sure.
you might have
Yep.
been riding with other guys in ATL, or were there specific scenarios where you realized how hard cycling was to be
Yep.
decent at it?
Yep. I mean, I think learning how to suffer is very hard. It's something. It's something. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily what you're born with, but
Mm,
you can definitely learn how to suffer. But I think maybe you can try in the sauna. I think the sauna, like if you do like
mm,
15, 20 minute I don't know, like interval blocks in the sauna, like that can really help you suffer.
In the sauna, you're not talking about doing intervals in the sauna. You're talking about
No, like
okay.
just
I was like,
just sitting
damn,
no,
Artem
no, no, no,
is
no.
gangster. Holy shit.
No, I mean the sauna. I go in the sauna quite a bit, and
Before
I think
rides, after rides, when you in the sauna?
after rides. For
Okay.
sure. Yeah, like if I do a big ride, I would love to go in the sauna, but I don't have a sauna in my house. I have to go to either to the gym or to a friend's house. So
Okay.
it's quite tough to go in the sauna for sure.
I need to get on that train. Where I'm at, I don't have great access to one, but Forest again is huge on the sauna, and I was going down to one in Florida. Man, I died the first couple times. I was in there for 10 minutes, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really hot." But then you go out and you ride, and you breathe when it's 90 degrees. I couldn't believe how much easier it was. So I think that's the one disadvantage that I have now in Blowing Rock, where I'm in North Carolina. It's like 3,800 feet where I sleep. So the rides go from, let's say, 2,000 to 5,000. So it's cooler than if I go race in somewhere in Georgia. And I'm a little nervous about the top few races when it's going to be like scorching hot. I need to acclimate to that because I don't naturally do well in super hot weather. So the sauna, that's interesting. Yo, man, this was awesome. This is incredible. Any parting words or questions I might have missed or things that you wanted to get out there to the people?
I just want to say shout out my mom.
Yes.
That's all I gotta say.
How is mom involved in all of this? Obviously, besides bringing you into this life and probably taking care of you a little bit.
My parents are number one supporters. Yeah, I'm really grateful to have them around, and they're always calling when I'm at races and just wanting to know how it goes. So yeah.
That's amazing. Mom, way to go. We appreciate you. Artem, thank you so much, everybody. We'll put links into his social media, to Action. Give those guys a follow. Reach out to them. Tell them thank you for taking the time to share all this. We really appreciate it, man. And I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.